Well, hello YouTube, and welcome back to another episode of Traps Tuesday Tuts. In today's episode, we're going to go over pistons and doors. We're going to look at all the different things we haven't looked at yet. We're going to cover almost every single thing we haven't already talked about. So, let's get cracking. This is a piston, and this is a sticky piston. The difference being that there's a little bit of green on top. That actually comes from slime balls, which we add to the piston to make a sticky piston. Now, how they work is when you add redstone, they extend out and they will push blocks or whatever. Now, the difference between a piston and a sticky piston is that when you push out a piston, it will leave the block where it pushes it, whereas a sticky piston will actually stick to a block and it will keep it attached. Now, things that we can do with this kind of technology is here is a very simple doorway, which, as you can see, what we have is just a line of redstone that powers the various pistons. They're all sticky pistons, and so when they activate, they push these blocks out. If I were to retract it or turn it off, they would retract and pull the blocks back, allowing you to walk right on through. So, if you were to cover this little doorway up here, like so, then you would have a functional door that you can see is in the wall, but it works. And so that's the very basic of redstone doors right there. Obviously, you could just do one side and only have a one wide door, and that would work as well. Other things that we can do with this. Well, redstone lines, as we know, can travel through a block as long as you have a repeater pulling the signal out. So we have a redstone torch here, we have redstone here, we have this block pulled back, and then we have this line running to the redstone lamp. So if I were to activate this piston, the redstone lamp turns on, because what happens is it pushes this block into the system. So this redstone line does keep on going through this block that's now there, and that will keep going until we retract the block. Similarly, redstone torch under the block will activate it, but currently, obviously, it's retracted, so it's not. But if I go ahead and I flick this lever and extend the piston, it now is activated by the redstone torch underneath, and it will take just a straight redstone signal out. So that is just some ways you can interact with redstone and pistons. So now this block is one we haven't talked about yet. This is a slime block. It is made with slime balls that you obtain by killing slime entities. Now, obviously, everybody knows you kind of travel slow on them, but you can bounce. If you were to fall from a great height, you can see you bounce, and you can actually fall from super high and still survive when you land on a slime block. But they also will stick to sticky pistons and extend and retract. Now, one thing that they do as a slime block, they also attach to other blocks. So you'll see this block is up above, and then all these other blocks are touching the slime down here, as is the one in the top center. These three are not actually touching the slime. So what I'm going to demonstrate here is if I extend this piston with the slime block attached and then retract it, this one stuck to the slime block. So anything that actually touches a slime block when it's extended or not extended will stay stuck to said slime block indefinitely. However, these ones that weren't actually touching the slime block but were just on top of these blocks, they got pushed up, but they would not retract. So that's a key thing to note. Another block we haven't actually looked at very much is the redstone block. Now, the redstone block is actually made up of 9 redstone, and it creates power from itself at all times. So if right now where it is, if I were to run redstone out, it is active because this is currently creating power. It works much like a redstone torch. It always creates power. However, unlike a redstone torch, it can be attached to a sticky piston. And so it can be used in a redstone circuit to extend out. And as you can see, it will power things directly next to it, or it will run a redstone line off and power other things that way. Now, what you could do with this is not just have one redstone on position, but you could actually have 2 on position. So if I ran this out the back here, you'll notice that is off and these 2 are on. But if I flick this lever, then that one is on and these 2 are off. So you can actually have something that's this is on or this is on. In this case, obviously that lamp or this lamp. So you can do something like that. Now, this is also a door. We saw that door over there. Now, that door was kind of obvious. There's a recess in the wall. This is a flush door. Now, obviously, right now we have a switch here, but you could put that somewhere else and make it hidden. And what this does is it allows you to open up just like any other door, but it stays flush with the wall. And how we do that is a little bit of redstone timing. What we got up here is this is how the side pistons are powered, and then the other pistons are powered by these blocks right here. So there's 4 sticky pistons facing inwards on the ends, and then there's 2 sticky pistons and 2 blocks here. So these blocks are the ones that are actually going to come out this way. So to build this door, we start off. We have 2 pistons facing in, and we have 4 pistons facing this way. And then we go ahead and we stick on our 2 blocks there. Now over here, we're going to do a very similar thing. And by very similar, I mean identical, except in reverse. And we're going to build up our pistons there. So there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and put our roof on. Our roof is important because that's actually the easiest way to power this. Now there are multiple ways. Again, anytime you're dealing with redstone, you can do it in 1,000 different ways. But what we're going to do up here is we're going to go ahead and put redstone around. We're then going to set a repeater this way and this way. And these repeaters we're going to go ahead and set to 2 ticks. And then we're going to go ahead, well, that did not work. We're going to go ahead and stick redstone here and here. Now, if we go ahead and we put a lever right on here, you'll see that this is totally functional. Now, what happens here is as soon as you flick that lever, these guys go ahead and power, which would power these pistons, except they're not yet in place. But what is in place is these pistons. And so once it travels through this redstone repeater, after an extra tick, these extend. Now that extra tick is not necessary for it to extend properly. And then as soon as these pistons get over here, they extend. Now, the reason that we have the extra tick in the redstone circuit is because when we go ahead and flick this up and turn it off, what happens is these 2 no longer have power, but these are still sending power for 1 more tick. So what that allows is the 2 pistons that are back here, well, actually 4, the 4 pistons that are in the back are able to retract before these ones retract. If that didn't happen, it would break the system and you would end up with the door still closed, even though all the pistons were retracted. And we can actually demonstrate that by changing the timing. So you'll notice that that extended just like it had previously, and that all worked fine. But once I do this, these are still here, because while these were still retracting, these retracted at the same time. And that can't work. You cannot have these retract while these are still retracting, because it just won't, it won't do it. It's basically a double piston extender. It works in tandem and sideways and whatever, but it's a double piston extender. So we're going to go over a double piston extender real quick. So how a double piston extender works. If you have 2 pistons and a block, and you want this to extend out to the full extent of this. So basically, instead of being here, you want it to push out to here and then push out to here. How that's going to work is you're going to go ahead and you're going to put a redstone signal into these 2, and you're going to put redstone dust into this one. So the timing on this is going to be 2, 4, 0. And what that means is this is a 2-tick delay, this is a 4-tick delay, and this is a 0-tick delay, or just straight redstone signal. And so as we turn this on, you'll see those double extended. As we turn it off, you'll see that double pulled back. Now, how that happens is this goes ahead, and this after 2 ticks will extend, which then makes this piston no longer in line here. So you're not worried about this being powered. But this will be powered right off the bat. So as soon as this gets in position here, it will then extend, pushing this block out. So what will happen when we turn off the circuit is this will be the first thing to lose power. So it's going to pull back. Then this will lose power, which will pull this back, which pulls that piston back. But because this still has power, the piston will then extend again. But the block will be here because it will have pulled back in that first move. So when it extends, it will attach to this block and pull it on back. And we can watch that again. right here. Something I wanted to point out. When a block gets into a particular place, it can activate a redstone circuit. Just like our one over there where we used a piston to move it. Well, there's lots of different ways of making blocks get into position. In this case, I'm just going to place a block in position. You'll notice that it goes ahead and it activates the circuit and it pushes it right on out. Now, something to note. We're going to go ahead and keep placing in blocks here. And what we're going to find is eventually this is not going to do anything anymore. And why that is because pistons have a maximum push distance. So after it's pushed 12 blocks, it can't push a 13th block. So this is the 13th block, and it cannot push it because it can't push that many blocks at once. Now, this stackable number of blocks also applies when we're using slime. You'll notice that when I push this, this is a sticky piston attached to a slime block, attached to 4 more slime blocks with stone blocks around it. Now it cannot push it up because currently there's 9 blocks on the bottom, 10, 11, 12, 13, and that is a 14th block. If I knock off one block, it won't activate there. If I knock off one more block, it will. And why that is because that's now 9, 10, 11, 12. That is 12 blocks. This is currently at the maximum number of blocks that can be pushed by a single piston. Now, strangely, this does not work even when there's multiple pistons involved. You can't. This is actually only 9 blocks per piston, but it's a total of 18 blocks. But because the slime blocks are actually attaching, making it all one, each piston seems to think that it needs to push the entire system up, and so it will not activate. However, if I go ahead and replace even one slime block so that they're no longer attached, so now this thinks it's 9 and this thinks it's 9, now it will extend. So that's an interesting thing. And actually, another interesting thing with that, that one block that we replaced will extend with this one, but it will also extend with this one. So whichever slime block moves will take anything attached to it, even if there's another slime block also attached to it. Now, again, slime blocks can attach to slime blocks, which can do anything you want. So this is actually exactly 12 blocks in total. There's 9 slime blocks and then 3 other blocks. So this whole thing will actually extend one block and pull back one block. So that's a way you can do really long systems from your piston. However, keep in mind that if you were to try to attach another block, that's now going to be stuck to this piston, making this a total of 13 blocks. So you need to be careful not to have something that will move attached to it, or it will make it not work. Now here we demonstrate something else, which is not everything attaches to slime blocks. This is a stone slab. It will attach. That is our demonstration of attaching to slime blocks. This is a dropper, a watermelon, a furnace, and a hopper. And as we can see, the slime block did attach. It moved up now. These other 4 did not. There are several blocks in the game. This is not the extensive list. But numerous blocks do not attach to slime blocks. Some of the other ones, anvils, beacons, beds, bedrock, brewing stands, chests, droppers, dispensers, daylight sensors, enchanting tables, jack-o'-lanterns, jukeboxes, note blocks, obsidian, various other things don't. Something else to note, several of those can't be pushed in general. So you can't even use a piston to push those items. You can't move obsidian, for example, which is actually kind of a useful thing because it allows you to push blocks up against obsidian. But, so like, say I wanted to do this system right here, but I didn't want it to ever be able to go past this point right here. That's the furthest block I wanted to be able to push. Well, what I can do is go ahead and take an obsidian block and put it right here. And now what we'll see is we can put in blocks into our system, and it will push them all the way until they hit the obsidian block, not until they hit the maximum of 12. So that is something else to keep in mind. So this video has been going on a little bit. that covers the basic of pistons and these systems. There's 2 more little bits of redstone circuitry we need to get into that I will cover in our next episode. And those are observer blocks, which are a fairly new redstone block, actually. But they are definitely part of the game now and important to go over. And the other one is hoppers. Hoppers are very valuable and very useful. So we will be covering all of that in our next episode. But until then, have a great time. Build your creations. Create your things. Comment, like, share. And remember, don't get trapped without me.